Neralita and Col Padre of the Mezcaltones. Welcome to Sunburnt Country Music. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much for having us, Sophie. Really appreciate your time.
Oh, look, now it's a pleasure, I should start by saying, and I should declare first up, Neralita, you and I have known each other for a very long time. And in fact, we were in a band together. So anyone who's watching this or listening to this may detect that we are quite familiar with each other. And of course, I've known Col Padre for about the same amount of time, although he and I have not been in a band together. So I may ask
I was tour manager, and that was my first trip to Tamworth when I tour managed for you guys. I stayed sober for you.
And you were extremely good at it, I've got to say. I'm glad I didn't have to lug my own gear. It was fabulous. But having been in a band with Neralita, I can certainly understand, Col, why you would want to be in a band with her, because she's extraordinary at being a band manager and a band leader and all sorts of other things, as well as cracking the whip on the rehearsal studio in a delightful way. But I will start by asking you, Neralita, when were the Mezcaltones formed and what was your musical inspiration?
Okay, so it's quite an interesting story. So basically, my husband and I, Col Padre, we're sitting down watching some Rodriguez movies, Once Upon a Time in Mexico series. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I was looking at it, I was thinking they were playing some really cool tunes like from Tito and Tarantula, Los Lobos. So they had a bit of a Tex-Mex vibe going, which obviously suited the series. And they had some really, really cool outfits. And I said to Col, I said, how awesome would it be to play in a band that played this type of music and got to dress up like this in this really cool gear? And he looked at me and said, yeah, sure, love.
That was my exact words. I thought it was the stupidest idea I'd ever heard. And what is it, 5 years down the track, she's a genius.
Well, so it was probably, so we started the idea maybe about 7 years ago. And so the band's been playing, it's been around about 7 years, but obviously with COVID, we've only been playing sort of around about 5 years. So.
Yeah.
But that was the inspiration, was Once Upon a Time in Mexico series. And I highly recommend you watch that. It's very engaging.
So Col, given that you thought, that's not much of an idea when she first suggested it, how on earth did she persuade you to be the lead singer?
Well, you see, and look, I'm not talking myself up here. I'm talking my wife up. I'm smart enough. I'm not that smart, but I'm smart enough to just do what my wife tells me. So she said we'd do this, and I did think it was a silly idea, but yeah, I hadn't played in bands for a while. I considered myself retired, and I thought, yeah, I'll give that a go. You know, something to do with the missus, and I've just been. It's been such a corny journey, Neri, choreographing dances and doing these ridiculous things on stage and just having fun. Really, looking back, it wasn't that difficult a decision to make.
Can you say corny, but I think because you all embrace it wholeheartedly, because it is a concept band, but because it's embraced wholeheartedly with authenticity and passion and experience behind all of you as musicians, it doesn't come across as corny. It comes across as cool, actually.
Yeah, look, I guess I'm just giving in to my deriders there and calling myself corny. I'm quite serious about everything I do.
Now, you mentioned, Col, that you had been in bands previously. So what sort of music did you used to perform?
I tell you what, I played in punk, funk, pop, rock, all country. Hell, I've been in show bands. I was actually an Elvis impersonator at one stage, which is, in two different bands, once seriously and once quite hilariously. So, yeah, I just love performing. When I was a lot younger, I performed in bands that did original songs, wrote a lot of original, and then after a while, I became a little less serious. I realised my point of view was, not worth putting down in songs, and so I just went for the fun of music for a while there, and then Neri got this idea together, and back writing again, as well as performing some interesting alternate country songs that you don't come across.
Yeah, it's really interesting because like when we formed the band, I was of the mindset, you know, we've all played in original bands. We didn't make it. Okay, let's just go out and have some fun, which is what I did with the Sweetie Darling Sweeties when you were involved, Sophie. And it was all about having fun and just playing some really cool covers. And with the Mezcaltones, same sort of deal. I just wanted to go out and have some fun, you know, rather than be so serious and try and make it still. But in the end, Col Padre here started writing a heap of tunes, and so now half our set and half our repertoire is originals, which is great. So we've incorporated the originals into this sort of really cool sort of covers band.
Well, and then also
this one is.
But it raises the interesting point that in having fun and letting go of those expectations of what you were going to achieve, you've actually stimulated your own creativity.
Isn't that interesting? Like a snake eating their own tail.
Is that what it is?
I'll see if I can figure out what that means. I don't know what that means. But it's really interesting when you let go and you just be yourself and you get out and you have a fun time. It's like I really couldn't give a rat's about a lot of stuff. I just get out there, have a lot of fun. My wife's right there next to me, which is just, I can't explain how awesome it is to have that. My best buddy's on the bass guitar, brother-in-law on drums, and well, Mimi and Shango are like family as well these days. But it's just, I'm in my own lounge room. I'm just having fun. I'm layering off. I'm jumping off the furniture. You know, I couldn't be happier. And I think you're right. You know, you once you let go of expectations and you just peel back the Easter egg, you know, let the chocolate flow.
It's so good, Sophie.
I think that made sense.
So good not to, you know, like have that pressure of writing songs and think, you know, we have to come up with new songs, and we just incorporate all our new originals into these sets that we're doing. And a lot of people know them because we've recorded them. And we've got film clips for them, and people sing along to our songs as well as sort of the cover songs.
Only the simple ones, the ones with a few words, like nah, nah, nah. Everybody gets that one. They sing along to that one. Can I just explain to you, so the reason I keep looking away is one of our dogs, little Rainy, she's frightened of the thunder. She's come in here and she's breathing and dribbling all over me. So.
Well, that's fair enough.
I look distracted.
Should mention, of course, you have 3 albums recorded, and also, Col, when you were saying that you're playing with your wife next to you on stage, I think we can all admit Neralita is the coolest person in music, and I have always wanted to be her when I grow up. So it's a privilege for you to be standing next to her. It's a privilege for those of us in the audience to watch her perform. I'll just put that out.
Awesome.
No,
it's awesome. And you know, I never get confused as to what I should be doing. She's right there to tell me, and I love that. And I do this joke quite often, but it's true. Some bands have set lists. I just have a to-do list, and I just get through those songs and I do them. People ask me, oh, when are you guys playing next? I say, I have no idea. I get up in the morning, I do what my wife tells me. And if that involves doing a show, then great.
So be it. Yes, she's incredibly well organised. Now, you did mention the other members of the band, and between you, I mean, there are so many decades of musical experience, and Danny on drums has been playing in bands since he was 8. Luke on bass, or Filthy Luke, I should say.
He doesn't like being called filthy anymore.
Okay, just
Luca.
He's you know, he's an incredibly good bass player, and of course Shango on lead guitar, Mimi on colour and movement, shall we say? So
and some pretty tasty percussion too.
That's true.
He does a pretty good job of that.
Can you talk a little bit about the musical backgrounds of those other band members, and whether you've played with them before, and whether that was a factor in bringing them into the band?
Yeah. It was quite interesting because when Neri put the band together, one of the other things she thought was she wanted it to be all female musicians. So it started out, our lovely talented bass player, she got pregnant, went on maternity leave, came back, but when she went on maternity leave, Luca, who's one of my best buddies, I've played in bands with him for decades, he stood in and said, yeah, I'm up for it. And he enjoyed it, came on our first Tamworth tour with us. He filled in for her while she was on maternity leave. When she came back for different reasons, they ended up moving out of town. She left, and so Luke joined. So Luke and I have played in bands for a lot of times together. Shango, our lead guitarist, he graduated the Con in Sydney. He's got so many strings to his bow. He's he got quite a jazz background, which I think really reflects well when we're doing some rockabilly stuff, because jazz inflected rockabilly just really, and the chords that he comes up with in that sort of stuff just really floats my boat. So it's just incredible working with someone like that, and he knows when to show off and when not to show off. Not like me, just showing off all the time.
And can I just tell you how we found Shango? Because we didn't know him at all.
We call him the koala. We found him on Gumtree.
Found him in Gumtree. So I placed an ad in Gumtree, and I said, if you like wearing cowboy shirts, you play lead guitar and you love wah wah and you love tremolo and reverb, well, we're the band for you. Contact us. And so he didn't even see the ad. A friend of his saw the ad and just flicked it to him as kind of a joke. And he ended up, coming rehearsing with us and then staying. And he's fantastic.
There was also a photo of Clint Eastwood in the ad. I think that's what.
And of course, Dan, was in Sweetie Darling Sweeties with you and me, Neralita. So as I said, he's been playing in bands since he was a wee child. Now you mentioned that you often play 3 sets in a show. It's pretty grueling. There's a lot of songs to come up with. You mentioned it's a mixture of covers and originals. Are there any songs in your current set list that have been there the entire time?
Oh, great question, Sophie. Great question. Misrulu? Yeah.
And I tell you what, it's interesting because when we were auditioning guitarists, and just to finish the question before, when Neri did want all girl members, as it turned out, Dan being family, he said, oh, you're setting a band up, you need a drummer, and here's that talented a person that you don't go, oh, no, we're right, thanks. You go, yeah, thank you, because he does some fantastic harmonies as well. So we had Dan on board, we had Neri, and I feel terrible. I've forgotten the bass in the original. Steph, thank you. And Steph. So we were auditioning a guitarist, and this is interesting because Misrulu was a must-do song for us because we're doing Robert Rodriguez, Tarantino songs. So it's sort of surf country stuff, and so that had to be in there. And people would audition and they'd almost get through it and go, "Oh, look, I know I can figure it out. I can do this song," because Dick knows no slouch. And we auditioned Shango, and that was the first one. He played that note perfect. And then there was something in the arrangement we wanted to mess with and said, oh, do you mind if we do it again? Yes, yeah, right. So we did it again, like I'd put on a shirt. And then, over the night we did it 3 or 4 times and he didn't miss a note. It was like, okay, I think we'll take this guy. You don't say no to people like Dan and Shango.
Misrulu, which is obviously a very cool song from Pulp Fiction. So,
yeah.
And I can tell by my attire that we sort of do like Pulp Fiction wigs and we go with the Tex-Mex sort of look, even though we do a lot of old country as well. So.
And now your crowds, your audiences are very enthusiastic. Are there any songs that always get a crowd response, a positive crowd response, no matter where you're playing?
Can I tell you something? Neri wasn't joking when she said they were singing along to Na Na Na. That just, I think, because there's one word repeated 3 times in the chorus, well, 9 times. It's a numbers game. You can do the math, but people sing along with that and they love it. It's an up sort of poppy or country thing that I love it, and it's fun to perform, and people just sing along with that. They love it, and it's quite a shock when you see people singing your lyrics. And it's like, geez, I've forgotten those words. No, oh, that's right. So yeah, that's one that gets them going. Yeah.
It's also got a really fun film clip which we did here at the house, and we were on we're on the deck and we set it up like a stage, and the band was playing the song on the stage on the deck. And then inside, Mimi and I were drinking tequila shots and eating popcorn, and Col's vacuuming around us.
Fake tequila, ladies and gentlemen. It's just a prop, just water.
And so it's very entertaining. It's very silly. So check it out if you haven't seen it.
And now, just staying on the theme of the crowd, of course, Col, part of the show is you have quite a bit of interaction with the crowd, sometimes standing on the odd tabletop in the midst of the audience. What do you love about interacting with the audience?
I tell you what, it's always something different. Generally, I love it when it's a first-time audience. If we play a venue we haven't played before, because, you know, they don't know what to expect. We come on all dressed up, and it's the theme to the Magnificent Seven thundering through the PA, and we walk through like we're superstars, bowing and everything. And people that haven't seen us, they look like, huh? And if they're in a restaurant, the fork stops like, huh? And when they're looking and they don't know what's going on, it's just so awesome to be a little playful, to be a little brash, you know, get up on their table and dance on their table in front of them. That is the most exciting thing. One of our regular gigs, I won't say which one, we turned up to it. They'd got new stools there. They turned up to the gig, and there was written on the back of a coaster in capital letters, "Do not dance on the furniture." This means you. And so I thought, yeah, okay, I'll be dancing on the furniture now.
That's a rebel.
Well, it makes a good entertainer, I imagine, I presume. Neralita, this is a question for you. I think whenever I've been to shows of yours, the audience always has big smiles if I look around the room. So wondering if you think that your job sometimes is not so much being musicians as making people happy.
Sorry, what was the question?
So is your job, rather than being musicians, is your job actually to make people happy?
I think it's a bit of both, Sophie. It's a bit of both. It's like, it's really fun to get up on stage and be silly and not take life so seriously, and or not take playing in a band so seriously, and seeing people respond accordingly, because they get it. We're up there happy, we're having a good time, we're, you know, not.
It's infectious. You're so
it's
happy.
Infectious. It's infectious, and like, people sort of understand where we're coming from, and so they enjoy it as well. They have a good time as well. They relax and get into it.
I also say to any potential bookers that I feel my job is to make people drink more. You know, more coin over the bar, ladies and gentlemen. That's my job. Try the beer. It's the best beer in Sydney, even if you're playing in Newcastle.
Well, that's not a bad segue to my next question, which actually was to say, you know, in the enthusiasm of the audience, sometimes they can be a bit rowdy depending on where the crowd is. Has any crowd actually become too rowdy?
Look, there was one time that there was some gentlemen at the front of the stage that were making lewd gestures towards Mimi dancing. This band's totally about respect of women, and we won't stand for that sort of stuff. So it was a bit of a nod and a wave to the security, and they were gone. Whilst Neri and Mimi are very very good looking ladies, and very sexy, and they have fun on stage. They need to be treated with respect, and so yeah, that happened once, but no, people realise the girls aren't backwards and coming forwards. They'll tell them, but that happened once at a venue. I wasn't happy to see it happen, but generally everybody just has a good time. Really has a good time.
Yeah, it doesn't get too rowdy.
Oh, there was that other time. But anyway,
well,
never come to blows.
They do have a great time, and you have a lot of regulars. I know because I'm one of them. But now, before the pandemic, you were playing quite a few shows, and as I mentioned earlier, a lot of them are 3-setters. It's a lot of match fitness, basically, to maintain, and that requires regular rehearsal and everyone to be on their game when you perform. So, obviously, for a lot of last year and for a lot of this year, you couldn't you couldn't play, but you also couldn't rehearse. Rehearsal spaces were closed. So did it take you a while to get back into the swing of things? But because after lockdown last year, obviously any musical acts in New South Wales had to ramp up and go out again, and then go back into lockdown and ramp up again.
Well, before Neri answers this question, I just want to preface it by saying I'm quite lucky, or Neri and I are lucky, that we live together. She's the guitarist, I sing, and so we were able to jam a bit, but not actually get that match fitness that you require. We're only doing 4 shows at Tamworth in 3 days or something, so that doesn't take too much stamina. And yeah, I'm not frightened about that one. A good vocal warm up before, if you're doing a lot of gigs, it's so underrated. It's what you need to do, and we're fine with it. Neri's.
It was such a good question, Sophie, because when bookers were allowed to book bands again for their venues, I was really, really nervous about it, because the band was on fire before the pandemic.
Yeah, working three nights a week.
Absolutely on fire, and we were match fit, and it was, you know, it was game on. And then all of a sudden, there was no rehearsal, there were no shows. I think it was 4 months was the lockdown last time, and then we could get into a rehearsal studio, and I was just quite insistent that everybody know their stuff before they got into the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, the set list was sent out. Said, okay, guys, we haven't rehearsed for a long time. Please make sure you know all the songs.
Mm-hmm.
So they were sent out in advance. We got in there, and I think it took maybe 2 or 3 rehearsals before it felt like, yeah, we're back on.
Yeah,
we're back on. Maybe about 3 rehearsals. But it was the first one. Actually, the first one wasn't too bad.
I was going to say, that it's interesting. When you first get back, you're so excited. The first song was, oh, that was a bit loose. Second song, absolutely just smashed. And oh, this is easy. Then back to the drudgery of punching in a 3-hour rehearsal. And it's like, okay, yeah, I need to iron out some bugs here. But yeah, it was a jam.
Yeah. So it took probably about 3 rehearsals before it started feeling like, yeah, we're game on again.
And when the gigs came back on, we were offered gigs like, hey, can you do this next week? Can you do this next week? And a part of me was like, yeah, man, I want to perform again. Let's get me out there. But Neri said, no, we're not taking any of these. We're not performing till this. We're going to have X amount of rehearsals. And I think it's a testament to how we feel about presenting a show. You know, it's not a jazz band. We're not there improvising and, oh, look at this, I just made this little bit up on the spot. Well, I make a lot up on the spot, but the band has to be, and we've got choreography. It has to be, sorry, that's my dog. It has to be slick. That's how Neri has it. And I was so glad when we had a few rehearsals, got ourselves back together, got the show warmed up, and once we hit the road running. And
yeah,
it was pretty good.
Now, you mentioned Tamworth, and you have played there at the festival several times. You are playing at the 2022 Tamworth Country Music Festival. What do you love about Tamworth as a festival?
Oh, well, I don't know if it's the same thing for Neri and I, but Neri loves just being so busy. I really enjoy, it's just such a vibe. Every pub, there's a band playing there. And you know, even if you don't want to go to the ticketed shows, if you don't want to spend money, there's a great big park with a big stage. You can just camp yourself there, watch the bands, walk down the pubs, watch. I know people that go there just for the free shows, and they have a ball every year. We generally don't get much time to let our hair down, but you know, after gigs and you know, on days, sometimes we get a day off. Day offs when you only get one gig. And get to have a look around. But geez, it's just infectious. Can I say, Sophie, the most beautiful experience I had one Tamworth was we're playing the Impey Hotel, and generally that time of year it's pretty dry and it's droughty, and there hadn't been rain in a long time, and it started raining, and it's an outdoor in a beer garden, and I've never played a gig with a vibe was just more in the moment, spontaneously crazy. It was just the joy of the rain coming down, the smell, and yeah, that for me,
it was quite amazing. The audience were dancing in the rain. They were loving it.
Oh.
It was quite phenomenal. Cole was out there in the rain. Mimi was in the rain.
And well, Neralita, what do you love about Tamworth?
What do I? It's pretty much the same as Col. It's like there's such a good variety of bands to go up there and see. And so checking out new music up there. Also, what I really like is the band becomes quite match fit after doing so many shows in a row. And so I think we've got 4 shows in a row, and then we come back, and then on the weekend we're playing at the Colorado Beach Club.
Right.
So
And that gig will be tight as a drum.
the Beach Club gig will be slick.
Well, before we get to your Beach Club gig, can you please let us know where in Tamworth you'll be playing?
Okay. So we're playing Jan 18, 19 and 20 at the West Diggers. And then we've got a shopping centre gig on Thursday morning, the 20th, at Tamworth Shopping World. So
Great.
Looking forward to that, because I think we finished the gig the night before at 1 o'clock in the morning. And then we're on at Tamworth Shopping World at 10:30. And I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, don't miss that one.
At least it's not a full show. So the Diggers is a party venue. Do you tailor your set lists according to the venue that you're going to play at?
Well, yeah, we come up there with it's really interesting, because having been together for a while, we've got a large body of material, you know, and so we say, well, this is a festival. We want to do lots of stuff that have more choreography and more dancey numbers, you know, a bit of rockabilly and that sort of stuff. So West Diggers, we've got a show that's special for them that we think will really go off there.
Yeah, well, I can imagine that it will go off, because you know what you're doing. And you also mentioned coming back and playing the Colorado Beach Club. Now that's in Sydney. That's a regular venue for you. For your fans who have been missing you while lockdown's been on, are there any other regular shows that you might be picking up this year, or anything else you'd like to say about where you'll be playing?
Well, the shows are starting to come back in again. We usually play regularly at Marrickville Bolo. So I think the first Sunday is at first Sunday in February is at Marrickville Bolo.
Love Marrickville Bolo. That's a great place to play. Great PA, great stage. They've got underlay. They've got carpet with underlay on it.
Great sound guy, Richard. He's very good. So we've got a couple of new gigs coming up, which is a bit exciting. We're playing at the Shady Pines Saloon Bar in Darlinghurst, which we've never played before, so I'm looking forward to that. Also playing at Buckety's Brewery in Brookwell, and then I think we've got shows at the Oatley Hotel, South Hurstville RSL. There's another show booked at Coloroy. There's a couple of shows booked at Coloroy. They're starting to come back on board.
So if people just Google, people just Google the Mezcaltones, they can go and see your gig guide on your website.
Yeah,
so your professional would have had that information right there in front of there, but I didn't do that. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Boss. You're a professional on stage, so all is forgiven. All is forgiven.
Oh, thank you.
Well, have a fabulous Tamworth. I know that you will, because every gig is so entertaining and upbeat. And as I said, everyone smiles. Every time I look around the audience, lots of smiles, even in the more serious songs. I think people just enjoy, you know, the change in pace. So thank you very much for talking to me. And I look forward to seeing you play in Tamworth and elsewhere, and enjoy the heat when you're there.
Thanks for having us, Sophie.
Thank you so much, Sophie. That was lovely. Thank you.
Bye.